Welcome to St. Augustine this evening, the Mike Davis Show. It is Monday, June 24th. We have an amazing guest here. One of our most reoccurring guests. The guest that comes here to make sure that I'm correct about election stuff. And as always, completely over-prepared for the questions that she doesn't know that I'm going to ask. But I will let you know who she is in just a minute.
Yep.
So we've got to make a little bit of money here. Amanda, welcome to Monday.
Yeah, I thought you were introducing me for a second there, but I jumped
No, you're the person that keeps me straight on everything else.
Okay.
For the election stuff, I go straight to the source.
All right.
So, all right. Salomon Services. They've got an amazing facility over off Dobbs Road. They have indoor and outdoor turf areas. All of their coaches are certified through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. And during the summer, you've got a ute, if you've got a child, college age, high school age, or middle school that is trying to get in better shape for their sport next year, Monday, Wednesday, Friday's your day. Middle school is 4 to 5 p.m., high school 5 to 6 p.m., and college 8 to 9 p.m. because those guys stay up for forever. I know I did when I was in college, and 9 p.m. is now my bedtime. All right, but Salomon Services, you can go get in shape yourself, get your utes in shape. It's a great place to go. I will be there tomorrow morning super early, which is why I'm going to bed super early tonight.
Yeah, I have to wake up early. The team at South State Bank is a group of bankers you can count on. Their approach to building long-term relationships with their customers is the best in the business. If you are looking for a banking relationship you can depend on, check out South State Bank. They've got 3 locations to serve you in St. Augustine, State Road 312, State Road 16, and the beach. Or you can visit their website, southstatebank.com. They are a member FDIC. You don't have dinner plans? Join the Tringali family for dinner. You can head over to Carmelo's Pizzeria. They were voted best pizza 9 years running. New York style brick oven pizza. They also serve salads, subs, wings, and more. Or you can head to 123 Burger House, voted best burger 3 years going. They have chicken wings, salads, authentic wood-fired pizza, and ice cream courses. Both restaurants offer dine-in, takeout, and delivery through Bite Squad and Grubhub. Join the Tringali family for dinner tonight. Back to you, Mike.
And Abear Kresge and Associates, they're a full-service, a local CPA firm with a team of skilled professionals dedicated to providing top levels of service in the areas of tax compliance, planning for businesses, estates, individuals, trusts. They can also do audits, reviews, and other accounting services. And if you need a business valuation, forensic analysis, or litigation support, Bill and Ken and all of their staff can help you out. You can reach them at 904-460-0747 or at abearkresgecpa.com. They're a great firm. They do work for me. I can vouch for them. Really, really good folks. So Abear Kresge, give them a call if you need some accounting services. I call them now too, because like not tax season, and then you can get on their calendar. And today is June the 24th in the Jackie Hurd calendar. There's nothing on it, so we always take those dates. So today is National Supervisors of Election Day, and we are honoring Vicky Oakes. So it is your day in the calendar. I wrote it in there, so therefore it must be true. It's easy how you can do stuff with a blank page.
Thank you,
Welcome
Mike.
back.
Thank you.
Welcome
I'm honored.
back. Well, we're glad to have you back. It's election season.
It is.
So you get to tell us all the things that we're supposed to know about elections. Maybe before we get all the dates, we should just start with Long Live the King. It's election season. You're wondering why. Well, Dennis Hollingsworth has been our tax collector for 40 years.
Yes.
Sad to say, not sad to say, but the first election I could vote in, he was running. I don't know if I was allowed to vote for him or not because I was a Republican. He was probably running in a Democratic primary. You're going to research and tell me whether I did or did not vote for him. But I did. I've known that because he's the only person I've been able to vote for tax collector for 40 years because the majority of the time, I don't think when's the last time he had opposition?
Well, he didn't. He hasn't. And you haven't been able to vote for him because he hasn't even been on the ballot.
See, that's it. The king. Long live the king. He's run all of our tax collecting for years and he's never on the ballot. One, he does a great job. Dennis Hollingsworth's a wonderful person. I'm joking right now, but I think he's a great guy. I know because he was one of my teachers when I was in middle school. So really, really good person. So we will miss him. Jennifer Raven, as you and Eddie Creamer are now all reelected because you had no opposition.
That's correct.
So congratulations to you.
Well, thank you, Mike.
And to Jennifer and to Eddie. Yeah, you guys are all great folks. So how does it feel to be reelected?
Great. I'm grateful I don't have opposition in a year. We have 2 challenging elections ahead of us, and I'm grateful I don't have a campaign to run and the elections to run at the same time. So grateful for that.
And some of your counterparts across the state are not so lucky.
That's right. There are a number of supervisors across the state that do have opposition and that will be running both their campaigns and the elections at the same time.
Yeah.
Do they get attacked for like not being fair? And I mean, I'm assuming that someone running against a supervisor of election is always saying, well, the supervisor has all of the advantages and I don't. I mean, I would, if I was the person running, that's what I would say.
Well, you have to understand, regardless of the fact that your name is on the ballot, you still have a job to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you still are the chief elections official of the county. So it's still your responsibility. There are restrictions on what you can and cannot do. You're not allowed to serve on the canvassing board, obviously, since your name is on the ballot. You may serve in an advisory capacity and then just other specific restrictions.
Okay.
Is there any like campaigning restrictions for supervisors that are different for other people that are running for office?
No.
You guys pretty much, okay.
Yeah, because you still have your job to do. I still send out vote by mail ballots with the name on them. Still send out your sample ballots with the name on them. I mean, it's just part of your job.
Yeah.
So you still have your job to do while you're conducting the election.
I would think the worst error you could make is if like you left your opponent off as a supervisor. That'd be like the worst error you could make. You'd be like, oh gosh, I mean, I didn't mean to do that, but now it looks like I intentionally did that. And then you just gave them all of this free advertising in it. So I would just think that would be the worst mistake as a supervisor.
Actually, that happened in Escambia County.
I knew it happened somewhere.
Yes, Escambia County, the supervisor had opposition. His opponent did not file all of his paperwork within the time limit. He was late and did not turn his paperwork in on time. So there's a lawsuit on that.
In this election cycle or in a different?
Yes, for the March election. I mean, for the upcoming August primary.
Well, the courts are packed. I don't mean that in a bad way. I didn't mean that. I just mean there's a lot of cases in there. So somebody better hear that one quickly. Because you've got to get out apps. You got to get overseas
Vote
ballots
by mail
out.
ballots overseas go in the mail July 5th.
So
I know.
So that judge has a very short period of time to decide that case.
Yes.
And then whoever's appealing it has an even shorter period of time to decide the appeal.
Yes.
And then whoever's deciding that appeal of the original judge's decision has even less time.
Yes. And I don't know whether you know it or not that my office is involved in an appeal, actually a lawsuit and appeal from one of our circuit judges.
Really?
Yes. Judge Preddy had a challenger, Scott DuPont, and filed suit against him. It had to do with his time in office and the fact that, he was removed from the bench and then his license pulled by the Florida bar. So she brought suit against him. The judge ruled in her favor and removed his name from the ballot. So she's currently without opposition. He has appealed. So I talked with my attorney Friday. Even though he has appealed, there's been no other action taken. He hasn't paid the fees, had any further filing. So we move ahead.
So right now you're not anticipating to change anything, but if you did have to change it, you would obviously get it done in the time frame.
Well, once a candidate is qualified, a circuit judge is the only entity that can remove a candidate's name from the ballot.
Okay.
Or put it back on.
Very interesting.
But we move ahead because he was removed from the ballot, and until I'm ordered otherwise by the courts, we continue ahead.
And so I always love these really like intricate questions. So have you ever had an instance where you've mailed the overseas ballots and then some judge has ruled one way or the other and you had to add somebody back to the ballot or take somebody off the ballot?
No, because, candidates have withdrawn when ballots are already in the mail.
Okay.
That's an easy fix because I can now start putting an insert in the vote by mail ballots to say, hey, This candidate has withdrawn, therefore don't vote for them. And the voting booths at early voting and election day, we would provide the same notice. But once ballots go in the mail, they cannot be changed. You can't put somebody back on them and remail. That pretty much doesn't happen.
Right.
It's easy to take somebody off with removal notices, and that there's a procedure for that in state rule.
And I would think presidential primaries are a bigger one where that happens.
Yes.
Because it's such a fluid thing, and somebody doesn't win in Iowa and somebody doesn't win in New Hampshire or South Carolina, and all of a sudden they drop out, but the Florida ballot's already been mailed, it's already printed, and their names. I mean, you constantly see that and you go, wait a minute, they're not in this race anymore. So I would think it happens more there than in this normal primary cycle.
Yes. And the situation with that is the names for presidential preference come from the parties in November. So they come so early, they certify them to the state, and the state has until mid-December to certify them for us. So then ballots go in the mail, and like you said, it's all said and done. Then halfway through January and February, people are dropping out of the race, but just because they suspend their campaign does not remove them from Florida's ballot.
Okay. Let's see. Do you have a question? You look like you have a question.
No?
You look like you have a
if you hit the word suspend really hard. So I wonder could someone unsuspend their, has it ever happened that someone says, never mind, I'm back in?
Yes. Al Gore, 2000. I concede, I don't concede. Yes, that's when it happened. But it has nothing to do.
But has a primary candidate ever unsuspended and jumped back in?
Off the top of my head, Amanda, I honestly don't know.
Okay.
So I do know that you all will remember in the 2016 presidential primary, we had 17 Republican candidates on the ballot.
Yeah.
17. And by the time voting day came along to Florida, half of them had dropped out. So many of them had dropped out or suspended.
And if you remember my prediction, it was all over in August of 2015 when Donald Trump came down the escalator. And I said, the rest of you guys can go home, including Hillary Clinton. I got that one right. I got a few other things wrong that year and the next year, but I did get that one right. So.
All right. You get them right once in a while.
Yeah, once in a while. Blind squirrel will find a nut. So every once in a while, yes. That one was just a lucky guess, but yes. I could see it coming. And it had to do with we were on the radio at the time and just the amount of interest in his campaign, right? The phone lines lit up after he got in the race and people were engaged and wanted to know what he was doing and wanted to talk about him. Either for or against. I'd never seen that with a political candidate, ever. So it was very, very interesting. But anyway, we have qualifying ended 2 weeks ago, Friday.
Right. Yes. On the 14th at noontime, ballots are set. The following Thursday.
Flag Day. June 14th is Flag Day. Also President Trump's birthday. I don't know why I know all these crazy things, but yes, that was the end of qualifying.
And we have received the list also now in certification from the state for our candidates, statewide candidates that qualified in Tallahassee for ballots. So we are doing our ballot layouts now, a lot of proofing, more proofing, and more proofing to make sure all the races are on the ballot, all the names are spelled correctly, and they're in the right order before some preliminary testing begins. And then we shoot for our July 5th mail date.
So when you proof all these, how many people proof the names?
Okay, so I have a coding team of 2 people. Then I have 4 teams that check their work. It's all about quality control, Mike. So then I have 4 different teams of people that they go through and check the work that programming has done. If they find any errors, then everything goes back to the programming. And we go through, then they go, if they're all right, then they go to the next proofing team. So I have a total of 4 proofing teams. Then after that, if everything looks good, then the senior manager signs off on them, and they better be ready when they say, Vicky, we're ready for you to look at the ballots, and then we're ready to go to press.
Have you found an error even after all of that?
I'm not there yet. We're still doing a lot of proofing.
I just mean in the past. It's you've gone through all that process and then you go, how did we miss this? Or how did we miss that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm just...
it happens.
Yes. No, we
It
look
happens.
at... And I'm not picking on you have to be perfect. Like in the construction, we put all kinds of bids together. We have multiple people that look at those bids. We'll get a job, and then all of a sudden we'll look at something and go, how did we not have this in there? Right? How did all of us that looked at that miss that two numbers were transposed? I mean, that stuff happens all the time. On this show, quality control is done by our listeners. So we get instant feedback. If we say something wrong or inappropriate, they will let us know. Mostly it's when Amanda messes up and Barbara Jean has to correct her.
Yes, that's true. So I Googled it. Woodrow Wilson suspended his campaign when Teddy Roosevelt was shot while delivering a speech on October 14th, 1912. And while he was in the hospital, he was declining invitations for events, saying that he was done in politics. And then when Roosevelt was released from the hospital and back on the campaign trail, he unsuspended his campaign and he resumed. But he was telling everybody he was out of politics.
Interesting.
And then he won the presidency.
Thank you. That's an interesting fact.
I know. See, fact checking right here. I could say that never happened, and then she'll prove me wrong. No, I think that's a very interesting. So the biggest thing, then next thing coming up is for voters is when do they have an opportunity to register? What's the last day they can register or change their party affiliation? Because you got a primary with a lot of Republicans. Is there even a Democratic primary?
Yes, there is, and it's a particular circumstance. So
Democrats, I'm so happy for you. It's the first time in a long time.
Nonpartisan.
Yes.
Nonpartisan. Let's talk about that. All right, back to your question.
Yes.
July 22nd, last day to change your party or register for the August primary. July 22nd, very important date. We will have sample ballots on our website around July 12th. And here's what we need to talk about, Mike. So if you're registered Republican in St. Johns County, because of the write-in candidates that have closed our primaries, and then there is Merrill Rowland, who closed the District 5 race.
Yes.
So if you are a registered Republican, you're going to have a very full ballot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a registered Democrat, and all this information is available on our website, we have a primary election candidate list.
And the website is?
On our website, votesjc.gov.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a registered Republican, your ballot's going to be full of races, beginning with United States Senator, your congressional representative, state senator, your House district. Then your first county race that will be on your ballot is the clerk of the circuit court and comptroller, which is between Denver Cook and Brandon Patty. This is a very unique and the only race we have this year that is the universal primary contest. Mike, what do you notice about that race?
There's two Republicans in the race.
And that's it,
And that's
period.
it. But it will be a universal. So you're saying Democrats can vote in this race as well.
And Republicans. And
Independents.
voters with no party affiliation or minor political parties. So
How many
this
Green
race,
Party registrants do you have in St. Johns County?
52
She's
or 3,000 and change?
The Green Party is 50.
Oh, no, green. I thought
Yeah.
you said no party.
No party. Well, the no party is, I think, more than the Democrats at this
That's
point in time.
correct.
Yes.
Yes.
But I just didn't know if you knew off the top of your head the number of Green Party.
No, I don't.
Communist Party?
I don't off the top of my head. You can go.
Party that would vote for bacon.
I've seen that. Okay, so let's talk about the universal primary contest because on the Democrat ballot, you're going to have the U.S. Senate race because we have 3 Democrat candidates on the U.S. Senate.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have that race. You'll have the clerk of court race. And then if you live in either school board district 2 or school board district 5, that school board race will be on your ballot.
And is that also, that's a universal one too, right?
That school board members run nonpartisan.
Nonpartisan. Yep.
So Democrat, Republican, nonpartisan school board races. But remember, school board races are district specific. So I live in District 2. the school board District 2 race will be on my ballot, but you don't live in District 2, so it's not going to be on your
I'll be
ballot.
on the
And
district.
Amanda, you probably don't live in District 2 either, do you?
I don't think so.
School board.
Yeah. I don't
Okay.
I think I got District 5 though.
Okay, but school
Yeah.
board District 5 will be on your ballot
Mhm.
and everyone else, regardless of their party, in District 5. So the bottom line, yes, Republicans have a lot to vote for. Democrats, 2 races, definitely 3 if they live in either school board district. And NPA, or our nonpartisan ballot, only has 1 race on it, unless it's school board in districts 2 or 5.
Okay. It's always interesting how this stuff kind of comes down, and it's very interesting, the nuances to it, right?
Right.
Because you think, well, that everyone will vote in that. And then where was I going with, so the nonpartisan is just simply our clerk. It would be the nonpartisan.
Yes,
That's
and that's the only race countywide.
Okay.
And that's right now the only race on the. What I saw this year, Mike, is we just didn't have candidates come out. Or it wasn't just the 3 constitutionals. The airport authority seats, no competition. City of St. Augustine Beach, no competition. 3 seats for City of St. Augustine, only 1 had competition.
And that was a late entrant by the second person.
Yes. So I can't help but wonder, because of today's political climate, if good people that run for office just decided not to because they just didn't want to get.
Is it that? So you're saying that, and I think that's a viable reason why. The other one in my mind is, I've watched this, is voter and kind of engagement fatigue. Right. So this hyper engagement in politics started literally when Donald Trump came down the escalator, and it has been going on now for 9 years. And I just think some people are like, I'm just burned out of being involved in this, and I want to unplug from that. We saw it a lot on the podcast with people just, after the 2020 election, like, I just don't want to talk about it anymore.
Right.
I just need a break from this. Talk about anything you want to, but don't talk about that anymore. I just need a break from it. And I think people have unplugged. If you look at news outlets around the country, both print and TV, their ratings are lower. Print and digital news is dying because people are just tired. They just don't want to plug into it.
Right.
First of all, they don't buy into half the stories that they read, no matter what side they're on. And they're like, we're not going to watch that anymore. We're not going to read that anymore. We're not going to advertise there anymore. So I think a lot of that is just a fatigue issue. You do have some people that are always very motivated in every single election, but I think you got some people who are like, you know what? I'll pick this up the week before and I'll figure out who I'm voting for, and then I'll deal with it. And then it's over for me and I don't want to deal with it again. I got stuff I got to do in my life. And I just think that's because politics has become so dirty, because it's become so nasty, because it just doesn't seem to solve anything.
Right.
People are like, okay, we're checking. That's my theory.
Okay.
I could be completely wrong. Barbara Jean will tell me I'm wrong again. In capital letters with periods in between there.
With 4
exclamation points.
Oh, boy.
I thought it was more wrong than that, Barbara Jean. Just saying, I threw Amanda out there. I didn't even say Davy's name, and I only got 4 exclamation points.
Wrong.
I was hoping. So also, just for the record, July 22nd is a more important day for me than you, even though you're trying to get all of this stuff and people registered. That's my 35th wedding anniversary, so it's more important than this
Congratulations,
thing, than
you're
this thing that
absolutely
you are
is.
doing in the county. So it's no offense. I got other things to do that day.
I get it. So we are working on a publication, our citizens guides that we mail. I'm working on a new one right now for the August and November election.
Nice.
It's in draft right now. We'll finish it and send it to the printers. So it will go in the mail on July 12th to 137,000 residences in St. Johns County. If you live in the county and you have a residential mailbox, you will receive a publication from my office about all the information you need as a voter to get ready for not only the August primary, but the general election as well.
And speaking of my wife, she loves that.
Oh,
So
does she?
takes that, she pulls it out because on there is all of the information about how to get in touch with the candidates. Their websites are all out there. You can find out. So she goes and does all of her research. She's like, I could watch your show, but I have to listen to you all the time at home, and I don't really want to watch your show. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and do my own research. And then it's funny because she'll come back to me and she'll be like, okay, I've made up my mind. I'm like, okay, give me what you got. And it's always a very lively conversation at that point. And as a husband, I might often be wrong if I were to disagree with her, but since I don't disagree with her, I'm in pretty good shape. So, yeah.
Do you all ever disagree on candidates?
Yes, we do. There are times that I have said, well, I appreciate your input, but I'm voting for so-and-so because, and then I get my things and it's like, well, I did my research and I'm like, okay. So it's really fun when we do that because she's like, I'm going to do all the research and then I'll talk to you.
Okay.
Because she knows if she comes to me without research, I can be overwhelming with research.
So the Citizens Guide is a main informational pamphlet. We will, about 3 weeks before the election, send our sample ballots out
I love those.
to all of our voters, which give our voters the actual races so Darcy can do her research.
She does she loves all that. So yes, it's absolutely amazing. And I do think we're returning back to a more normal time after 2020 of candidates being able to reach and engage voters. Unlike Mr. Leak, who's annoying voters. I mean, I'm just kidding. I'm not. He's not. I think I got 4 mailers again.
It's a little annoying.
I don't know if he's. I have had people tell me it doesn't matter who runs against him. I'm voting for him because of all the crap that has been thrown in the mail against him.
I know, and I get 2 and 3 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Some for, some against, and what was really kind of overwhelming is this started 2 months ago.
Well,
Yeah.
and I think that I don't have the actual numbers on it, but I've rounded up. I think it's probably because the district is so big. Each one of those mailers is somewhere close to $10,000.
Wow.
I mean, it was about 5 for a mailer to run for a House district. So I'm thinking the Senate has to be 3 times that size, kind of the population area of where you're at. And that was 10 years ago. So I'm kind of, it might be an 8,000, but just think about every time you get that, that's how much it costs somebody to mail those out to everyone, to produce and mail them out.
And postage has gone up since then, Mike.
Yes.
It's very expensive kindling for my fire pit.
Well, and I'll tell you, it's going up again July 1st.
Postage?
Yes. Every 6 months, by the way. I'm going to buy my forever stamps.
Yeah.
I'm going to stock up on them.
Are you going to buy them before July 1st because you're smart and you want to make sure the county saves money?
No, that's for my personal mail.
Oh, I thought it was like the county.
I use a postage meter at work. I can't.
Okay.
They won't let us do that. Sorry. Darn.
I'm going to get them for my Christmas cards, though.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
What is it going up to? Does anybody? Someone knows. I don't know because I just buy the forever stamps and
I do.
and
I just buy the forever stamps.
And that's their way of cheating. For those of you that don't know, if they don't have the price on them anymore, you don't know how much they cost. You're just buying the forever stamp. Therefore, you're not complaining because I remember when they were 2 cents a piece.
Yeah, it's a trick because, you lose sight of how much a stamp costs now. And so when they raise it, you don't notice because it just always says forever. And so they don't get pushback for raising it. I remember when it was a big deal and people would argue because they're going to raise it. Now nobody knows and it gets raised way more often.
Yes.
It's a trick.
It's like getting a direct deposit for your check at work.
Yep.
You no longer see what the taxes are. You no longer see what everything is. You just see that, it went in. And I didn't have to go to the bank and stand in line to deposit it. But most people don't look at their statement anymore. It's like, okay, it got deposited in. They're there. The employer has them. They can give them out. Some of them don't. But of course, some of them probably never looked at the check anyway. They just took it to the bank.
You just reminded me, I think I got shorted by my other job and I forgot to email them about it. So I need to look that up.
You should
Not
look that
this
up.
job. By the way, it was
The other
other
job. I
job
said
and
the
not
other
this
job.
one. That's right. Extremely well paid at this job.
Of course.
So I think that's interesting that kind of, somebody's got to tell me. Is it over $2 yet?
No.
I'm waiting.
yet.
I'm waiting
What?
for the what the mail rate is when it
Postage
gets
stamp?
like $2. Yes. I don't. First of all, they don't deliver half the amount of volume of material that they used to because everybody does things online now.
Absolutely. But I'll tell you when, as a government official, it's difficult to connect with our voters because newspapers kind of went out of existence.
What? What are these things you call
Newspapers
Is this
went-
something new that I should have learned about? No, I'm just kidding. I hated when the newspaper went away because
I
it was
do
all the
too.
local. Well, I hated it until Pete Melfi decided to supplant the newspaper by starting the 904 Now,
Yeah.
which is the only local source of news.
And we're short, with the exception of him, for sources of local news.
Mm-hmm.
Believe it or not everybody does Facebook and social media.
What?
Big announcement. So I do radio ads, but still there's a lot of people that listen to Sirius radio and don't listen to local stations.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, direct mail is always still the best avenue in connecting with our voters, which is why I've gone to the Citizens Guides.
Mike, do you want to guess what a postage stamp is right now?
72 cents.
Do you have a guess, Vicky?
I was going to say 65 cents.
It is 68 cents right now.
Okay.
And a postcard stamp is 53.
Yeah.
53 cents per. I remember when they were 19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember when they were a lot less than that.
Well, that's because you're ancient.
You young whippersnapper. No.
So I'm sticking my toe in the water and I'm getting out of the box, and I signed a contract with TextMyGov. So we're in process now of getting our site up to speed with our new numbers. So we'll be pushing out information soon on how our voters and residents will be able to connect with the office individually by text, because everybody's got a cell phone.
Are you going to sell these cell phone numbers?
No.
Okay. Can I give you numbers like for Amanda and Pete and everybody else so that you can send them text messages, or do they have to sign up themselves?
There's a couple of different ways to go about it. We're still working on that. I know I can buy a list of all of the phone numbers, send out one message, and if you want to opt out, you can opt out. Or I can just send out the message and then let people sign up. We haven't really made that decision quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to try to do some more things to connect with our voters individually, and they can get the information that they need right on their phones.
If the information guide's not finished, I would suggest a QR code for people to sign up on the information guide.
Okay, by the 12th, our site won't be up, but we do have a section in the publication letting people know it's coming.
All right.
She's a tech whiz. I didn't understand anything she just said. I just knew there was information for you that might be useful.
Thank you, Amanda.
You know what a QR code is?
Yeah, it's one of those things I tell Darcy, what is that? Can you scan that and tell me what it is?
Well, I forget you have an Android, so it probably doesn't work
I
on
just
your
don't
phone.
want to use that tech. I mean, I can tell you, I mean, there was a big deal at Push in airports to make people kind of use that. And I'll roll in with 3 of my buddies who are going surfing. Granted, we were all, in our late 50s, early 60s, or a little bit older. And the waiters and waitresses just come over and go, just tell me what you want. They just know we're not going to all get the scan. We're not going to do the order through it. Just tell us what you want. And I'm just like, okay, thank you.
So here's a kind of off-topic conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Our security people really push back on QR codes
Yeah.
because you can put all kinds of things in those
Yeah,
QR
you can embed
codes.
things in
You
QR
can put
codes.
bad things in them. And as an example, they had at one of the security conferences, they had posted notices all around and said, with the QR code, sign up for next year's conference.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a QR code on there. So all the techie guys were going around, look, you can sign up for the code. And then when they got to it, it went, gotcha.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Because you know what?
Mhm.
You don't know what's in that QR code
Mhm.
just because it says that's
Yeah.
what it is. You don't know what's in that QR code.
Yeah.
So our security folks have said, don't use QR codes.
Yeah.
Don't encourage people because there could be all kinds of bad things in QR codes. So we, for that one reason, don't use them.
So what that means is somebody who set that up had actually sent money to a Nigerian oil minister and learned their lesson and is now trying to warn other people.
You mean
I
that
think that's
letter's not
absolutely-
real?
No, it's not. You're not getting that money back, Amanda. I think that's absolutely brilliant that they did that at your conference to show this is the stuff that you should be wary of, and this is the stuff that you worry about.
And every one of the tech guys did it.
Yeah.
They're the ones that invented the Terminator in the movie, and so the tech guys were the guys you have to be afraid of.
Yeah.
They think they got
And
it
they're
all
like,
figured out.
oh, darn, they got us. Yeah, just
Yeah,
when
they
you weren't
did.
looking.
I'm gonna tell you, my tech guy would have said, "You're idiots if you guys scan that," because he is like, Mark is. He would go take certain tests along his way in life, and one of them was at the post office, and really, literally, like question 40 something was fill this out and then stop, or question 2, and everybody would fill the whole thing out, and he'd hand it back in, and like, well, why did you fill it out? Because the second or third question or whatever it was said just stop here. And they were trying to see if people were reading all the directions or just going and taking and Mark was like, you told me what to do there. So he said, I got your trick. So he's always constantly looking for those things, which makes him really kind of, he would have taken my phone and downloaded it just to see what happened because it's an Android, but he never would have used his own phone. It's too smart for that. But I think that's really interesting that that's it. And that's, right now, there's a lot of talk out about how do you have a secure election. Are election results being manipulated online if you don't have a paper ballot and you don't have a trail? Florida has paper ballots. We have a trail. You can go recount those. There are certain places in the country that are still struggling to justify some of their counts from 2020. Some of it due to the fact that where are the paper ballots, right? And did you keep them? Did you log, and to me, it just seems really simple. You have a paper ballot, that paper ballot stays stored for a period of time and you can go back and recount. The left was absolutely certain that in 2000 that W had cheated in Florida. Every time they recounted the ballots, he won by more, right? I mean, every single time. It was like 538 votes, which then became 600, which then became 625. I mean, it wasn't a significant amount more, but it was more every single time they counted them because they were trying to prove if they recounted them rather than the supervisor elections, but the ballots were there. I don't know how much money they spent recounting them. The ballots were there. You had them. You could go back and check those. And of course, obviously, they were only cherry picking and checking three counties. Yes, because there's no way they could have afforded to do a Florida recount.
Well, and in 2000, St. Johns County was sitting pretty because we were on paper ballots and actually began using paper ballots in 1994. So it was not a problem for us. We were on paper ballots. But the counties that you are talking about are the ones with the punch cards. And then the following year, the punch cards were, of course, outlawed. The punch card system were outlawed. But, the Supreme Court, they started a recount. They stopped a recount. They started it. They stopped it. They started it. They stopped it. Supreme Court.
Now it's noon on Monday. Are you going to do the rest of the week for us?
So the Supreme Court then threw it back to Florida Supreme Court. And the bottom line, there was no standard to actually say what a pregnant, dippled, or hanging Chad was and what was an actual vote. And you couldn't then look backwards
to try to figure out voter intent.
And say to an election that had already happened, we're now going to establish this standard and use it in an election that had already happened. So then, therefore, the results at 537 stood. And we never did finish the recount.
No.
Because it was off again, on again, off again, on again.
See, I had 538. Not too bad.
7. You were close.
That's close. That's close. Probably 538. Is that Nate Silver's? I think that's his group. His online group is 538. Yeah.
But I'll
it has
tell
to
you,
do with the number of elected officials and the Supreme Court, I think, in Washington, D.C. is 538.
so Florida's become the gold
that's it.
standard now in conducting elections, Mike. And, the last 3 years, 21, 22, and 23, our state legislature has given us in excess of 100-page election bills in each cycle all 3 years.
Mhm.
We were grateful that they did not give us anything this year. We said, please just let us catch our breath
Mhm.
and catch up with these, because some of them, there's still lawsuits going on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
With the legislation, this was passed even back in 21.
Yeah.
There's still lawsuits that I am one of 67 supervisors. Groups never sue the state legislature.
Mhm.
They sue the enacting body, which is, guess what?
You guys.
Secretary of State and all 67 supervisors of elections. So, I've got 5 pending lawsuits right now.
Do you have? I'm assuming you don't go to all of those. Do you have lawyers that are dealing
I
with
have
those?
attorneys, yeah.
Do you guys get together, supervisors, elections, hire one attorney for certain areas?
Well, so what we do is we're very fortunate in St. Johns County that with our county insurance under the Florida Association of Counties, our lawsuits are covered mostly under fact. And I have an attorney assigned to me who also represents 23 other counties. So she has 24 counties.
Okay.
And then there's another association that's the same way. So yes, there will be an attorney that will represent a group of supervisors. There's a couple that use their own, but counties have, have insurance for things like that.
But as far as election integrity, because you have the paper ballot, and the other thing is, well, if they're tied to the internet, somebody can hack into the internet.
Stop.
Yes.
Our voting system is not open to the internet.
It was an opportunity for you to yell at me, and you took full advantage of it.
Okay. Everywhere I go, let me just say, I have 100% confidence in our voting system and our practices, and our voters can too. And here's why. Number one, I have to use equipment that is certified in Tallahassee for use in the state. There are 2 systems, election systems and software, which we have had and been using since 2010, and Dominion. The second thing, we have paper ballots. And I am an advocate of paper ballots, always have been, because they're an actual physical record you can hold in your hand about how a voter voted. And if you have a close race and you have to recount them again, we have a process for that too, a machine count and then a manual recount for any race that's less than 0.5%, manual for less than 0.25%. And then we have so many audit processes along the way, from our chain of custody logs. Every voter that's checked in, every ballot that's issued, and every ballot that's tabulated has to be accounted for. Our poll workers every single day at our early voting sites and our precincts on election day. We have chain of custody for our equipment and our ballots. And at the end of the election, when we certify the election, we are required to report that voter history to Tallahassee, accounting for every voter and every ballot.
Do you go back and just randomly audit a certain precinct and just count it manually to see?
Okay, so Florida, great question. Thank you very much. Florida has been auditing our elections, Amanda, since 2007.
Okay.
Every election that has not had a recount has been, in St. Johns County, our process has been a manual recount. So you draw a race at random, precincts at random, about 2%, and you go retrieve the vote by mail, early voting precinct ballots, hand count them against the tabulated results, and then in all of our audits, year after year, election after election, our manual audits confirm the accuracy of our machines. But there's 2 ways to do an audit in Florida now. And 16, a new system came along. It was called Clear Audit. The state certified it, and they were kind enough to give us some grant money last year, security grant money. And I made the decision. I had never felt previously, Mike, that I needed to buy and maintain a separate system to prove to me that our machines counted accurately because I knew they did. I knew they did. But, the political landscape has changed. And this is a new tool that the state certified. So St. Johns County purchased Clear Ballot Audit System. We rolled it out and used it for the first time in our March election. And what we found was the audit, by the way, we do 100% audits on the election now. The audit from the March election was 99.996% accurate.
Well, that's just not good enough. I'm just kidding.
So here's what happens. So
I know Vicky was ready to hit me.
No. And this is such a great, good confidence builder for our voters, so they can know and have confidence also in our systems. So the way it works is we run our ballot through our tabulation system, and then we run it through our audit system. And after the election, then we compare the two to say, here's our tabulated results, and then here's our audit results. So our vote by mail, we're perfect. Our early voting, we're perfect. And what we found is election day, we had one precinct that was one ballot off. So we went and got the paperwork.
Did you fire the precinct workers?
No. Well, first thing we do is go get the paperwork and say, hey, why is this? Actually, election night, we knew. Because we could tell by the paperwork that came in from the precinct that they were one ballot off, and we'd have to investigate it. So we pull the paperwork. Our clerks keep meticulous notes of everything that happens at our precincts. Our clerk had made notation that there was a ballot jam and one of the tabulators. So when a ballot jam occurs, the poll workers get a message on the machine. It tells you the ballot has been counted or it has not been counted. So depending upon that message, that dictates their next action to be taken. If the ballot has been counted, then it just goes in the ballot box because it's already been counted. If it has not been counted and it's wrinkled up, then they have to give it to the voter. Voter has to mark a new ballot, and then they put it back in the machine, their new ballot. Well, I don't know if the worker missed the message or exactly what happened. They ran it back through there twice.
Okay.
So we know one ballot was counted twice. During a recount, that would have been resolved because we would do a separate machine recount, and that would have been resolved.
Can we put you in, gosh, I wish we could just take you out of your role and put you in certain places on the night of the election. Just going to leave that there.
I've got a couple of questions. Bobby in the audience wants to know, because coming from the place of Scantrons, like fill out the bubble perfectly. Don't go outside the lines of the bubble. Make sure it's completely filled in and it's a nice and opaque pencil mark. So how sensitive are the machines in your office? If you have a dot in there, is that good enough? If you loop out, is that going to mess up the machines and the tabulations?
Okay, the instructions right on the ballots, they fill in the oval completely.
I even know that from voting so many times. I knew exactly what word she was going to say.
But he's an MPA, so he wants to know what does completely mean.
So completely means completely. Fill it in where it's nice and black. There's even an actual example on your ballot for you. Is. But here's what I will tell you. Our machines are very smart. So if you go to put your ballot in the machine and you have overvoted, and by that I mean there's two candidates, two races. Let's just say you bubbled one in and put a dot and you're accidentally put your pen down. The machine is going to stop you and it's going to say, hey, you've overvoted this contest. And then you as a voter will have the opportunity to see what's wrong with your ballot, get it back, be able to correct it. And, you know, even though it does say fill in the oval, sometimes people will circle the candidate's name. Sometimes they'll put a check mark by the name. So if a machine gets a ballot put in that it's not seeing any marks on the ballot, it's going to stop and say, you have given us a blank ballot. You might want to review your ballot. The voters have a choice. They can cast their ballot with errors or they can return it. So it's always up to the voter. Voters have a responsibility. But the machines are pretty sensitive.
Okay.
And if there's any issues with what they're reading, then the voters, while that's right in front of them, are given the opportunity.
So if your ballot didn't come back to you at that moment when you're walking out after you fed it into the machine, if it just accepts it and they give you your sticker, you're good, it read your ballot.
Right.
If there's an issue, it'll say there's an issue and you have the option to take it back.
It'll say stop. It'll say either you have a blank ballot or you've overvoted these contests. You may then return your ballot. You can get a brand new ballot, spoil your ballot, or you may cast your ballot with errors. That is up to you. The voters, that's action that the voters take.
And I have questions about the audit
I have
system.
one question quickly, though.
Okay.
What percentage of the people that mess up the ballot are Air Force veterans? Because Bobby's an Air Force veteran, so we just want to know, is this an Air Force thing or is this, sorry, Bobby, it was just right there. I had to go for that one, Bobby. All
I'm
right.
sorry, Bobby.
I
Go Air
apologize too, Bobby. That was over the top and uncalled for, and I can't believe that Amanda made me say it.
So with the audit system,
Okay.
what size disparity would it require for there to be action taken? If your clear audit shows a percentage of 76%, would that necessitate action from your office to rectify? What size percentage disparity between the clear audit and the tabulation would require action?
That's a great question, Amanda. The audit is not actually done and the results revealed until after the election is certified.
Okay.
That's what it is right now. So the certification of the election has already happened. So at that point, there would not be anything. If there's any certain percentage more than 2 percentage points, we're required to immediately notify Tallahassee.
Okay.
And then we have to take action on that.
Okay.
So, but like I said, for years, our audits have been 100%. And our machines are very accurate. We know that they are. There are now 32 counties in Florida that are using the clear audit system, doing 100% audits on our elections. The state would like all counties to move to clear audit, but they're not willing to pay for it right now. Eventually they may.
Is Clear Audit an independent company from the two companies that make the voting software?
Yes. They have nothing to do with.
I'm just going through all the conspiracy
different
theories,
vendor.
right? That I
Different vendor.
So yeah,
Right.
trying to give you an opportunity to answer all of those questions.
Yeah.
So not that it would happen in your office, but let's say Santa Rosa County, because they were my high school rivals. So let's say Santa Rosa County they've turned in their votes through their tabulators. They've turned those into Tallahassee. Then they do their clear audit. That comes back that it's 47% accurate. Would that,
We're
is
looking
there,
for like.
yeah, like what?
That's terrible.
If the votes have already been certified, like what do you do at that point? Is there anything that they could do?
Okay, so let's back up. Let's back up. When we are preparing our systems to deploy and to be used in the elections, there's certain processes by law every single county has to go through. One of them, and it's thousands of ballots being tested internally on all of our machines. Then what occurs is called our public audit, logic and accuracy test.
Yep.
We have to have a public test. It's an election simulation. And we set up lots of machines. We run thousands of ballots, not only through our precinct tabulators, our high-speed tabulators, our clear audit system. All have to be certified that they are counting accurately before they can be used in the election.
Okay.
So both go through this process, not just St. Johns County, but every single county in Florida.
Okay.
So we are required by law to do that. If something happens with one of the machines and it malfunctions during the logic and accuracy test, we pull it out of service and then replace it. So there's lots and lots of testing, and then the certification that the machines are counting accurately before they are used in an election.
Okay.
So to have something like that happen, not sure we'd ever
It
go
only
there.
happens in Chicago, in the districts that are heavily populated by cemeteries.
And Atlanta.
Maybe. Allegedly. Maybe. That was a joke. Voter fraud. A lot of people ask about voter fraud. Nursing homes. You had an instance at a nursing home, and I want to say this was maybe 4 or 6 years ago.
2012
Yes. Okay. And you cured that by instituting a new
program called
Yep.
Supervised Voting. It is now my staff that contacts the activities director for each location, makes arrangements for them that would like to participate. Our staff goes in, has a voter registration day, sign up for your vote by mail ballots. We schedule a day for their residents, and we set up a polling place for their residents and have them, let them vote right there. But it's my staff. They bring their vote by mail ballots. My staff assists them. And of course, someone can have a family member, someone else assists them. There's forms they have to fill out to do that in writing. But it's my staff that handles that. And they vote the ballots, and then they bring them back to the office.
And it's every nursing home in St. John's
that would like to participate.
Okay.
They can opt out. Some of them we don't get any requests at all from.
Okay.
So we've got a pretty good amount that do. Staff have been out this last week or two, going to each location around that's interested in participating, getting everybody registered, getting all their vote by mail requests on file, getting everything ready. Because we always do supervised voting and conclude it before early voting begins for each election.
I want to make one comment. Your poll workers are phenomenal.
Yes.
Right. The ones that I deal with at my polling place, it's really, they're great. They're very professional. They do a wonderful job. They make people feel welcome and at ease when they're there, and they're very, very efficient at the process. Been to some that you walk right in, walk right out. Been to some you waited 10 minutes to get in. And that's the other thing for me. If you're hearing on the national news that there's lines at a polling place, to me, that's a supervisor of election that's unprepared, doesn't have enough ballots, doesn't have enough machines, and that's that problem for that specific supervisor of election. It's not a national problem, because to me, you have thousands of supervisors of election across the country that get their people in and out of the polls without them having to wait hours or stand in line to get a drink of water, which has now become an amazing thing in Georgia. Right? I mean, it's just, you look at it's almost as though it's intentionally set up to make people wait, to have the line so you can get the pictures and say, well, look how long people are waiting. You shouldn't have to wait that long to vote.
Another reason Florida's the gold standard, we offer so many options for our voters to vote. Vote by mail. Any registered voter can request a ballot, vote by mail, sit right on your couch.
Yeah.
We have early voting prior to each election. You know, that's my favorite, even though you're a traditionalist.
I'm a traditionalist.
Mike,
I am.
and you've gone to the polls where you've had 100 people waiting in line at 7 a.m. behind you. I know you're always the first one there because you like to vote first.
No, actually, I like to go about midday and see what the count is.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I kind of like to go about mid-morning or midday just to see how things are running and how it's going on. My parents were there first thing in the morning.
Oh, okay.
They were like, okay, we're going to go there. But my dad never missed being at work early except for election days, at which time he would be at first thing.
Okay.
Mom and I are going first thing. Okay, it'll be all right. The office will still be okay when you get here at 7:15.
So what it's turned out is that Florida has so many options for voting that people request their ballots and vote by mail.
Yeah.
They early vote. Now, where our lines are lately have been at early voting. And I'll tell you, during the presidential general election in 2020, we had over 93,000 voters cast ballots during early voting, Mike. And I am planning for 10 early voting sites again for the general election. They will be open for 13 days from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily.
Bobby, that's 2 weeks in Air Force time.
Oh my
2 weeks,
word.
2 full weeks,
2 full
13
weeks.
days.
Guys, if you're going to go, just go big, right? If you're going to make Bobby mad, just go the whole way.
We're so sorry, Bobby. Please watch while I'm gone the rest of the week.
And the thing about it is there's no wrong place to go. That's my
Yes.
favorite. So you pick a place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pick a place. They're equally spaced all throughout the county. Pick a place to go and vote. And see, a lot of states don't have early voting. They still don't.
It's interesting to me, and I go back to this conversation. Bill Maher had a representative from Georgia on, and he was complaining how it's rigged in Republican states and they don't want people to vote. And the guy said, well, we have early voting, we have this or that. And Maher says, you have early voting? And he says, yeah, don't you have this out in California? Maher's like, I don't know if we have that. It's like, here's a guy on national TV ripping red states for how they vote and not knowing how his own state votes. It's like, talk about being disconnected from the problem and reading something that somebody posted. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I say, as a last resort, your precinct is always open on election day from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Yes. And all that.
So you have options. A lot of states are also, Mike, very restrictive on their vote by mail.
Well, but some of them aren't.
Some of them
accept the ballot 18 months later and then want to go back and change the election. I'm being sarcastic.
I know.
That is a complete.
You are.
But it's like, my goodness. I mean, Florida, the third most populous state in the union, can get its vote count done usually by about 1 a.m., right? And I'm sometimes before then on a presidential night, and you have states that's like, well, let's see, it's March the 15th. Let me check in and see if Alaska's finished counting votes. It's like the dog sleds got delayed for months, bringing them back in. Or you have other states like, yeah, we're not done yet, but whenever we recount it, it's always like one side seems to win the longer it takes to recount. So it doesn't, when that happens, it doesn't put faith and confidence in our system. And I don't care if your side's the winner or if your side's a loser in those races, you're going to look at that system and go, it has to be rigged.
Another gold standard, for another reason, Florida's vote by mail ballots are due in the elections office by 7 p.m. in order to be counted. Mike, you know, before we go home election night, all the vote by mail ballots are in, with the exception on a general election of our overseas voters who are allowed 10 additional days, as long as their ballots are postmarked by election day. When we go home election night, all of our early votes are in, all of the vote by mail, everything is in, everything is counted, and we pretty much know who won.
Yes, unless it's Paul Waldron's.
Unless it's close, and we have to have a recount.
All right, so dates, July 22nd.
July 22nd.
To register to vote or change your party affiliation.
For the August primary.
Yes. And then early voting starts when?
August the 10th through the 17th. 6 definite, maybe a 7th location. I'm working on nailing down a 7th location for us for the primary. And then we'll have 10 for the general, but more to come on that.
Yeah.
All right.
Pete Melfi, the evening show still has the ability for viewers to send stuff.
Don't tell him; he'll take it away.
Oh, I know. People will get us in trouble. Anything else? We're running a little bit over on time. You actually have been phenomenal. This has been a really enjoyable, fun, informative, as always, conversation. Even though Amanda had great questions and I didn't.
Well, thank you, Mike. I always enjoy coming. You pick my brain, but I'm able to get some good information out just to your listeners.
You're getting used to me because you used to bring stacks of stuff and now you just show up and go, I'll deal with whatever he wants to know.
That's right. Don't prepare anything. Now you don't use it anyway.
Now you're getting to know how the 904 now works, right? We just show up and we do a show and it's awesome. No, we really thank you very much. Thanks for everything you've done. I've never had, and as much stories as I've read and evidences that people don't run elections correctly or they have issues. I've never had that feeling in St. Johns County. Your predecessor was great. You're phenomenal. It's just nice to live in a place where you know the elections are handled correctly and they're done fairly. And I appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. We'll see you again.
Yes.
Because you're going to come back and see us, and then we're going to get your prediction when you come back. I'm going to let you spend time on your huge chalkboard figuring this out. It's a long calculation. It takes Vicky hours to let us know the next time what she thinks the voter turnout will be.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
You're off all week.
I'm off all week.
Enjoy the rest
Bye,
of your
guys.
week. Have fun.